It. A cultural phenomenon in itself, peaking halfway through the story into the children's half, but when it comes to the adult half, the writing gets shittily poor. I'll be focusing on one scene that's changed horror media in general. And that's the scene where Georgie's arm gets bitten off. You've just seen clips from it. I'll be discussing the 1990 miniseries with Tim Curry, the 2017 film with Bill Skarsgård, and the original Brick of a Tome by one Stephen King. This is basically a comparison, and I've only read the parts. Here, look. I've only read the part where Georgie dies, just for this comparison, cause this book, it's a commitment. It's like marriage. It's gonna take a while before you get a divorce and put it down. So first, let's discuss the 1990 miniseries produced by ABC, which is owned by Disney, which sounds weird. Very weird. It was released for 2 weeks, 1990, 2 episodes, one focusing on the child portion, the better half, and the poor half but still entertaining half, with the adults returning to kill Pennywise as a spider once and for all. Now, let's discuss what this scene in the 1990 series does good and bad. First, the acting from Tim Curry. It's both Pennywises, any Pennywise really. They're good actors, so that's phenomenal, as you should expect. Even if Tim Curry gets corny and funny in the rest of the 3-hour film, or 2 episodes. In this one scene, the most famous scene as well, from anything It related. He plays it serious, and his version of Pennywise, it's like, most people think that Stephen King was inspired by the murders John Wayne Gacy committed at the later half of the 1980s, which was when King wrote the book. He wrote it in, let's have a look actually. (1986), so this book, he wrote it just after the murders John Wayne Gacy did, where he killed, I think, it was around 30, I can't remember for sure. It was around, it was a big number of young, either little boys or teenagers, which Pennywise kills little kids, but it is mainly boys. So the comparisons are there if you wanted to make them. So Pennywise, in the 1990, Tim Curry plays it either like John Wayne Gacy or a pedophile, which John Wayne Gacy was, and it's just got this real uneasiness about it, where you just don't know what his intentions are, so it leaves it more like, yeah. So yes, Tim Curry's Pennywise is more of a PDF file, and it's really just, it makes it more realistic, and the show obviously did this because they were on a budget. 2 episodes didn't have enough time to do the cosmic shit, so it was better for them just to do John Wayne Gacy if he was a demon alien. That's much more simple. If you want, yeah, it's much more simple. Now, the only criticism I have for the scene in the miniseries act that it's on a budget. Because in the book, and also, pardon me, the remake from 2017 by Andy Muschietti, I think I'm saying that right, shows how Georgie's arm was bitten off by Pennywise. He got away, and, well, it does differ, because just went dark. That's better. Anyway, as I was saying, in Andy Muschietti's said that wrong, but in his remake, George's arm was bitten off, but he's dragged into sewers. But in the book, he's left out, found by the firemen, and it's sadder. I understand why they changed it for film. It's a drive for Bill's character. Anyway, the downfall. The reason I'm bringing this up is because in the show, he just does this, and it's with sharp teeth, red eyes, and it's the first time you see it, it's a bit creepy. The rest of the time, but they overuse it in the show. But the thing is also PG-13 to death, which back in the 90s, PG-13 meant something. Hearts would be ripped out and eaten, blood, some guts. It wasn't like an R, but PG-13 now just means you can say fuck once. Before, you could say that in a PG film. Times have changed. I'll let you decide if it's for better or for worse. Now, let's move on to the 2017 film, It. Since I been Gen Z myself, late 90s to 2012, 2011 for me, I grew up with the 2017 It. So it's my favourite, and it's the one I think of most of the time. Mainly because the pacing's not sluggish, like the 1991. So when watching it, I have a bit of bias, but it is a lot like the book. The only difference is, again, what happens to Georgie's body. And that's the only difference, really. Oh, and how Pennywise acts. The bad thing about the scene is, even though it's entertaining, Pennywise looks too fucking hungry. It looks like he wants to eat the child, but he has to be friendly. And like a child mascot, like Ronald McDonald, so we can lure them in. No, they just make Georgie dumb, which he wasn't in the series or in the book, so that's the only thing I have to tack on, which, surprisingly, It Part 2, it released in 2019, tackling the adult one, actually improved on Pennywise, made him more manipulative and realistic, so that he could actually lure in children. So that's the thing that the sequel actually does better, even if it's not as popular. I think it still deserves credit for doing some good stuff, some good gay representation all around. It's good. Okay, it's not the best gay representation, but it's only hinted at in the book. And you could call it work, but I wouldn't, because they didn't have the kids be gay for each other. And that's because they were in the 80s. Ronald Reagan, AIDS. A kid wouldn't come out in the 80s. It's just, that's how things were back then. It was horrible, but that's just how people acted. So now, let's compare 1990 and 2017. Which one would I say is better? I'd say, actually, even though the 2017 one's more accurate to the book, and it actually has the arm biting. I prefer the 1990s one because of how unsettling it feels, how just the atmosphere, and it just feels uneasy, like there is a child predator. It's uncomfy, but it makes sense to be uncomfy. It's goddamn horror. Now, sadly, let's discuss its impact. It hasn't had too much impact after the hysteria caused when it was released and made money. But it's been It's been 8 years since it was released. And I return to it every now and then, because I love Pennywise and all the characters it has. But the downside is how it's affected films today. Because of its popularity, films look at it for anti-inspiration, if that makes sense. For instance, Damien Leone, who created Art the Clown and the Terrifier films, I won't show any images from that film because I don't want to be demonetized. So the reason I bring the Terrifier films and, more importantly, the entertaining, the phenomenal, the colourless Art the Clown, played by David Howard Thornton, who also plays the Grinch, is because Damien Leone, the creator of the Terrifier films, said that he had an anti-inspiration, and the anti-inspiration was a good old friend, Pennywise. Now that anti-inspiration, it means where you're inspired by something, but you do all the opposite of it. So it's like, say, if you're inspired by a politician, but you want to be an anti-inspiration politician, you're honest and you actually do things that help people and don't avoid the truth even if you're guilty. Allegedly, I have to say. So how was Pennywise the anti-inspiration? Well, Pennywise, in the book at least, is bright, colourful like Ronald McDonald, but Art the Clown is black and white, more like a mime, colourless. Pennywise doesn't use guns. Art the Clown has a firing range of them. Pennywise speaks a lot. Art is mute. And a little hat was added to his head because of the Twilight Light episode. The difference was Art's hat is more like a bowler hat, like a small bowler hat, but in the Twilight Zone episode, it's a flower pot. If they had a flower pot, Art wore a flower pot. I couldn't take Terrifier seriously. I already don't take it seriously because it's goofy, gory fun, which best horror films are. It at times is goofy, gory fun. I wouldn't take him seriously even more. So, throughout The Clown, it shows how 40 years later, 39 years later, I think it is, Pennywise is still engraved in the minds of all of us. He's inspired new generations of horror with each generation of adaptation, and that's all because of the brilliant mind of the brilliant mind of Stephen King. And I'd say his work still inspires horror movies forever. Let's look at it again. It inspired the friendship group in Stranger Things. His book Firestarter inspired the government part of Stranger Things. And the title was a play on one of Stephen King's lesser known books, Needful Things. So those three things is why Stranger Things is a lot like Stephen King's stuff, because people say they like Stranger Things but they can't get into Stephen King. Stranger Things is basically Stephen King for a new generation. Because sadly, Stephen King, he is getting old. He's scared of dementia. He was born in 1947. That's a long time ago. He's close to the age of Diane Keaton, who recently passed away. Sadly, she was a great actress. And it's just, we need new creators that are similar to King, that offer new experiences that are similar to his work. Like, for instance, the film Carrie. They should stop remaking it and just take inspiration from it. Because you can't beat De Palma. You just can't. Or Sissy Spacek. You can't beat those versions. Or the book version you can't beat. So I say, do inspiration. For instance, the show Wednesday had a tongue-in-cheek joke about Carrie and the pig's blood. So that's why I say, take inspiration. And finally, people say The Stand is King's magnum opus. For me, this is his best work. Through all its drugs, sex, violence, and racism, at the time, it's a realistic portrayal that I think should be studied more and more. And other books of Stephen King that have been used for inspiration: The Shining, film and book. It's inspired this, and also the creator's real life of the film Weapon, which you should see it if you haven't. It's a great film. I haven't seen it, but I know it's great from what I have seen. And it's very similar to it in fact that a supernatural being is taking children to feed off of for their own means. Pennywise does it to stay alive because he's hungry. I think it's Gladys in Weapons. I could be wrong. You're always welcome to fact check me in the comments below. But yeah, I think it is Gladys in Weapons, and yeah, they're both ginger and very similar to Pennywise. But the key difference is Weapons. It's more like The Shining, because all this supernatural shit that happens, it's a metaphor for oppression and how drug abuse can affect a family deeply. And it shows its effectiveness. So I say Stephen King's books live on even if he's gonna die one day. Sadly. I say enjoy the fiction while he's still alive. Give him the praise he deserves, which he's already gotten. And I say, yeah, while you read it, check out some of his underappreciated work. Here's some of his underappreciated work now. Dreamcatcher. It's funny. Shit Weasels. It's so bad it's good. Under the Dome. Inspired the Simpsons movie. The Stand. Imagine COVID in the 70s. Yeah, he predicted COVID. Carrie. Sounds like Shining. All great, but let's look at some underappreciated one. Cujo. Dog with rabies. But it makes you realise that if you argue about shit and then something really terrible happens, that doesn't matter anymore. The Dark Tower series, that's a good one to read because it's basically Stephen King doing a horror series and it's better than Harry Potter. The Bazaar of Bad Dreams, Just After Sunset, Nightmares and Dreamscapes, Skeleton Crew, Different Seas and Night Ships, and a few more short story collections. For him, they're short, at least. 11/22/63, Under the Dome, Lively Stories, Cell, Dreamcatcher, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, Desperation, Rose Madder, Insomnia, Gerald's Game, Dark Half, Dolores Claiborne, Eyes of the Dragon. These are his underappreciated works, and I think they deserve appreciation because he's never done a bad book. He never has. Some are as good as others because of his drug abuse in the past, but they're all worth a shot at looking. I want to point out stuff like Gerald's Game, which shows the sexual abuse on children at an early age, how it can affect them. Most people just think it's a kinky book, like 50 Shades of Grey. It's not. That's just the setup for kinky stuff, but it's really emotional, and it ties together with Stephen King's book Dolores Claiborne because of a solar eclipse. They're like sister books. They don't tie into each other too well, but it's like there's a connection. Which makes sense because they're both really more of his feminist books. Because in the 90s he decided to write from a woman's perspective, and Dolores Claiborne does that as well, as a woman who repeatedly abused by her husband. People don't notice. She can't open a bank for herself because he couldn't do that until 1997, I think. Either 1997 or 1993, I forget. But yeah, that's not that long ago. So yeah, that's really disturbing, and it shows how women shouldn't be treated by men. And if Stephen King wrote it today, I bet you people like Ben Shapiro and all those right-wing commentators in UK who I'm blanking on his I'm forgetting his name. He's an asshole who said he doesn't like the Barbie movie because he thinks it's tearing down men when it's not. Tangent over. People would say some of Stephen King's women book are woke nowadays. It's not. Just because you show the perspective of a woman doesn't make it woke or inclusive. It just makes it unique. And it can make it for an uncomfortable read. And finally, Rose Madder. It's about an abusive relationship, a realistic one, and how you can escape it. And it shows that Stephen King is extremely versatile. So, that's it for today's video. Please like, subscribe if you want. You don't have to. It'd be nice, but I don't make money from this channel either way. So please just like, comment, subscribe, and be happy. And comment any videos you want me to make.